What I want to do today is to talk about the Fleet Feet brand. I'll tell you my story and sort of like how we are building Fleet Feet. I decided, yeah, what the hell? Like, I'll become CEO of Fleet Feet. You know, if it doesn't work out, I'll just get a job somewhere else. I'm still young, right? So, but every entrepreneur needs a plan B. But I was going all in on like my plan A at that moment in time. But in full transparency, this is how I felt most days, right? I don't know if any of you feel this way. It's like, man, like I just want to crawl back and get in bed. Like, I don't know what I signed up for. I'm still dealing with the wild, wild west from like years ago. I've got franchisees that don't believe in e-commerce. Brick and mortar is dead, and like that was our business, was these brick and mortar stores. And I've got to figure out how the hell to get this thing moving in the right direction. And so that's what I want to share with you today. I really had sort of like 6 kind of like epiphanies in that first year that I became CEO. And I want to talk about what those epiphanies were, and then I'm going to translate it over into sort of like COVID times. The first thing that I came up with was, this is it. You know, like you have to start here with culture, right? And it is your job as the CEO of your business to drive culture relentlessly. If you don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. You know, you think about like this quote from Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon. My main job today is he works hard at the culture, right? Now, I've come to sort of like move a little bit past this, and it doesn't matter if you're the CEO, but culture is owned by everybody, right? Whether you're the VP of HR, whether you're the director of sales, you have to instill ownership of culture at every single level within your organization. Now, one of the things that was important to me was having a company that was really grounded in a mission, in a vision, and in a core values. The second light bulb moment for me was sort of like embracing change and uncertainty. It doesn't matter if you're in retail or you're in restaurant, whatever it is, when the customer is exposed to a new experience, the bar is raised for everybody. Everybody is going to expect more. Early on in 2017, I went to this in Seattle. I go to this store, and I have to download an app and pay like $1.99 to go into the store, which I thought was like a brilliant move by Jeff Bezos. So maybe that's why he can go into outer space and I'm stuck here. But I downloaded $1.99. You go in, you put all your bags in sort of like, or all your goods, you know, you pick up your drink or your ham sandwich, you put it in your backpack, and then you just walk out. Like there's no cashier, right? And so it's this unbelievable like retail experience. So this gentleman here, so I take this photo, because it's like Disneyland, right? Like this guy is literally taking a selfie to post on Instagram that he's outside this Amazon Go store, right? And so like as a retailer, I've got to study my industry, right? It's not just what's happening at Fleet Feet. It's not my direct competitors, but it's everybody from Casper to Amazon, because my customers are shopping across all of those. And so like whatever your industry is, like you have to be a student of your industry. But when that bar is raised, it's raised for everybody. And so one of the things I like to talk about is these powerful statements. We want. What do we want as business owners? But what do our customers want? These are 2 very different statements. If I owned a taxi company in New York City, what do I want? I want customers to stand out in the rain and wait for me to show up, not know whether I'm going to be able to tell them how long it is to get to that direction or whether I'm going to take a credit card. But I want to be able to send the cars when I want, because that's how I make the most money. I don't want to invest in any sort of like technology, because I want to make money. I'm Bennett. I'm a capitalist. But what does our customer want? They want to sit inside with their friends at the restaurant drinking. They want to enter in the address and know that it's going to be $45 to get there and what time they're going to arrive. And so if you let all of your employees start with what do we want and how you build your system, you're going to be irrelevant. You may not be irrelevant tomorrow or a year from now, but you won't be around 5 years from now or 10 years from now. And so the hardest thing as a leader within your organization is, how do you embrace change? How do you get your people to move faster, right? So you're going to be out studying the environment, right? I go to Seattle, I see clerkless stores, and I start to have ideas, right? And so like what I want to do is I want to get to this blue dot here, right? And so it's a change I want to make. And so I start to study. So I start to spend time, and I'm thinking, how do I get here? Like, what do I need to change, right? But nobody else in my organization is involved in that decision. And so if you fast forward at some point in time, like I'm going to have a conversation with my leadership team, I'm going to start to get them involved. But I'm already moving down the pathway of like, we're going to make this radical change at Fleet Feet, but nobody else is involved in that decision process. And I've just got my leadership team involved, but I've had months to think about this, maybe even a year, and I'm trying to get them up to speed. And so eventually we're going to get to launch day, and I'm going to say, hey, like we're going just like Amazon Go, and like there's not going to be a single clerk in our stores anymore. Now what happens is like half the people, like that's it. Like that's the first time they've heard of it, and we're going to make the system change tomorrow. And so this simple rule is how I think you move people faster, right? You've got to involve as many people as possible, as much as possible, as soon as possible. And it sounds really simple, right? But if it was simple, you'd be doing it right now. I can guarantee you in this room, less than half of you are doing this because it's really hard to execute against. But if you want to be successful, you have to embrace change and uncertainty. And to do that, you've got to be spending time with your team, getting them involved in the decision-making process. How I simplify this language within our four walls is this mantra: involve, launch, refine, repeat. This is our Franchise Advisory Council. This is the chair in the front here. And this is what we talk about. We're going to involve them in the process. We're going to launch. But the key word here is refine. It's not going to be perfect on day one. A lot of franchisees want it perfect on day one. So I just want to go ahead and set a low bar. It's not going to be perfect on day one because like we need to move with speed and purpose, and we need to have refinement, and then we need to repeat. So when I became CEO of Fleet Feet, 10 years before, we talked about how do we make our websites more sticky. At this point in time, we were trying to figure out, we don't need our websites to be more sticky, we need our stores to be more sticky. So for over 40 years, we had measured people's feet, and it was a very human element, right? But fast forward, everybody has an iPhone. It's your map, it's your social media, it's your alarm clock, it's your everything. What we did was we said, we want to introduce technology into our fit process. So we envisioned a day where people would stand up on a scanner, and we're going to take a 3D image of their foot. And we're going to be able to show people their feet the way that we do. Now, our outfitters thought, whoa, this is crazy. Like, we're good. We know how to fit. We've been using this Brannick device for 4 decades now. Like, we don't need to change. We just need more people in our stores. I'm like, well, I don't know. We need a little more theater, right? And so it was a lot of conversations. Because what I didn't want to have them do is, like, the day before launch, like, they're just hearing about it for the first time. So we spent hours having conversations on the road about this is the new future, right? And so we've been able to do some pretty cool things from this. There were some things that we didn't see out of the gate, but we've scanned millions of feet. We've taken that data and we've started to shape shoes, and we're now making 3D printed product, not only unique to you, but unique to each of your feet. And so it all started with involve, launch, refine, repeat. It wasn't perfect on day one, but we didn't say that it was going to be perfect on day one, and getting that buy-in out of the gate. It's also important that in those conversations with our outfitters, that we wanted them to be sure that they were still going to be the hero in the transaction. Ultimately, like, they are the face of our brand. The tech was just a facilitator to make them better at their job. So the third light bulb was breaking the fear of titles. I would wager that there's people within your organization who are just intimidated by just your title. And so I've got 3 C's here. You got to communicate clearly, consistently, and carefully. Consistently. When I became CEO, communication was a big challenge. A lot of our franchisees said, hey, we don't ever hear from the home office in any frequency or any level. I think it was a fair critique. So I saw this article that just looked interesting. There was this guy who had worked for 40 years, and for 40 years, every single Monday, he wrote a note to his team, and it didn't matter if he was on a river in Brazil or if he was in Europe, but he sent his thoughts. And so I was like, that's a great idea. So that Monday, I wrote a note. I don't know how many Mondays we are later, but I have yet to miss a note. Every single week, I send either thoughts from the field, highlighting one of our outfitters, or the sales results. It's consistency, and so every single Monday, without fail, there is a note going out. This quote here I think is really important. Somebody said this to me once, and it really resonated. As the CEO or as the owner of your business, you don't stay on the brand message. You are the brand message, right? So when you're on Twitter or you're on Instagram or Facebook, or when you're in front of the press, whatever words come out of your mouth are not your words. They are your brand's message. The other thing I really like to do, we're a healthy, active lifestyle company. I like to do a lot of walking meetings just to get exercise. But it's also less intimidating. If we were to sit here across from a table, it's much more intimidating to be in a boardroom or in a table setting. When you're going for a walk with people, it just breaks the nervous energy out of the room. My other secret to walking meetings, the only person who knows the route is me. So if the meeting is not going well, we're 10 minutes in, I'm like, let's go left. And then we get back to the office. There's no more awkward, hey, you're just still shooting the breeze. It's all right, we're done, and so, but if it's a great meeting, it could be an hour walk. And so if you want time management, walking meetings are a golden ticket. The fourth light bulb moment was always invest in. There's a famous gentleman, I'm sure most of you know who this guy is, Warren Buffett. He was speaking one time and he was asked the question, Mr. Buffett, what's the best investment that you can make today? Anybody know what the answer was? Yourself. You got to find time to make the investment in yourself, whether it's through personal education. I've done several leadership seminars over the course of the years. I think you have to also make the investment in your team. Find a great mentor. If you have a board of directors, have a great chairperson. It is stressful being a business owner, right? You have a lot of weight and a lot of baggage that you have to deal with. And so always be willing to make the investment in yourself and your team. If I fast forward to the COVID environment, I think now more than anything, you need to check in on your team and make sure that they're taking time off. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of over Zoom. I think a lot of our teams are over Zoom. And so there's only so long that you can burn red hot. Make sure that they have taken time off. When you think about making that investment, it's not only just in sort of education, but just in time to sort of recharge. The sixth and final one here is creating a decision-making filter. I'll show you our decision-making filter. You can take it for what it is, but I hope each of you create your own decision-making filter. And so this is something that we created a few years ago so that everybody knew how we were going to make decisions. There's 4 big questions. Is it good for the brand? Is it living our vision, mission, core values? Will it create value? Can we afford it? Do our franchisees, are they going to be willing to pay for it? And will the stores embrace it? And so whatever your decision-making filter is, I would encourage you to have one and share that within your organization so that everybody is aware of it. If I survived the retail apocalypse, and then I think back to COVID times, we shut our stores down March 17th voluntarily. We had no idea what was happening relative to COVID. And then unfortunately, governments shut our stores down. We were deemed non-essential. And so I say it all stopped. And so when I think back to those light bulb moments, as I was thinking about this, they actually held true during COVID times as they did in the retail apocalypse. I mean, I think that culture is still important. And I've talked about that, embracing change and uncertainty. One of the things I always told our team is we don't have to think outside the box anymore. The box is gone. It got shredded. So you can have the freedom to do whatever you want. When you talk about communicating in COVID, I think that's one of the biggest sort of gifts that it gave us was you could communicate frequently. Hey, here's the best I know today. I don't know, it could change tomorrow. For us, when I think about thinking outside the box, we said we had to invent fast, right? We were used to our stores being full of customers, and so we opened up Zoom screens and went into people's living rooms and started fitting people. We took projects that were on the back burner that would have taken, quite frankly, years to bring to life, something as simple as appointment scheduling. And we brought it to life instantly. And we communicated to our franchisees, it's not going to be perfect. There's going to be a lot of unhappy customers on day one, but like, we can't build it out for 6 months. Like, we've got to build it out, and it has to be live within 48 hours. And you have to tell us what the glitches are, and we have to work together to solve this. And if we don't, we're just not going to survive. We opened back our stores. We were 6 feet apart. We were wearing masks in some form or fashion, but we also said that we need to continue to invest. So even in the darkest days, we said that we still believed in the power of community-based retailer and that brick and mortar experience in driving people in. And so we invested in new tools and technology, and that's when we actually launched the ability to create and sell customized product for you, was during the middle of like the COVID. So, you know, one of the things I talk about here, we always talk about being hyper-local at scale. When I think about being hyper-local, it's our franchisees, right? It's our local operating partners and our franchisees. And the at scale is what we do at our store support team, like our corporate office, and finding that fine balance. I will say in our 45-year history, we've gone too far on both sides. We've been hyper-local when like the only thing we were was hyper-local, and we've been at scale when all you're doing is ruling with an iron fist, and like neither one works. And so finding like that balance of like, how do you be hyper-local but at scale, and finding that right symmetry to building a brand. So in conclusion, for each of you, I'd say that like growth is going to be hard. It's going to be messy. But the other week I had Jim Davis. He's the owner of New Balance. So he started New Balance 50 years ago. It is now a multi-billion-dollar brand. He's one of the richest men in America. And we were sitting in our driveway, and I was asking him a question of like, hey, what's been the greatest thing that's happened over the last 50 years? And like, what do you attribute your success to? And what he said was a very simple answer. He's like, it's all about the people. He's like, every other strategy is just secondary. Invest in great people, empower them to be successful, and you will be successful. Everything else is secondary to that. This is Gino Myers in the dolphin shorts. He was our first employee when Sally opened up in Chico, California. She realized that she needed to invest in great people. And so I call him employee number one of Fleet Feet. It's all about the people.